Hi, everyone. I'm Gold Derby News and Features Editor Ray Richmond, and I'm welcoming Sarah Schechter, producer of the Amazon Studios film Red, White, and Royal Blue, to our PGA Awards Meet the Nominees panel. Sarah, your film is a queer rom-com, which I'm guessing even a decade ago wouldn't have been easily greenlit. Did it all surprise you that Amazon would step up like it did to so fully support this adaptation? I think one other queer love story as well, right?
Yeah. This is the second queer love story we've made with Amazon. Jen Psaki has been an incredible champion for us for as long as we've tried to tell these stories across television and film. I'm so grateful to her. I think what was exciting, like this was sort of like Lauren was talking about Daisy Jones. I was one of the people that didn't get Daisy Jones, so I'm happy for Lauren and for Scott. But there are these books that they come out and it's very early. They're not out yet. It's not that they're popular. And Red, White, and Royal Blue was one of those books, and a lot of people were interested. Some people really admired it, but were scared of it. It was clearly R-rated. And it was a book that we really loved. My exec, Mike McGrath, was the first one who read it and kind of brought it to our attention. And we chased it hard. And Amazon really, from the minute we brought this to them, were in unequivocally. And I think the thing that they should really be truly like applauded for is that they did not ever treat this film like it was a queer rom-com. They treated it like a mainstream romantic comedy, which it is, and luckily the book was a very big success and had a lot of fans. And but even luckier for us, some of the first fans were the folks at Amazon.
And the book was not a big bestseller yet when you guys were
No,
competing for it.
it was not published at all. So and then it became it, which was great. And then it felt like there was even more momentum to get the movie made, which was helpful. But we started the process just based on it's hard to find a romantic comedy where the obstacles feel legitimate, right? A lot of times it's sort of like, I'm gonna, I lost your phone number. It's like, well, now we have the internet. You can find anybody. It's like, so you have to find real reasons why people can't be together. And this felt like it had that kind of scale and that kind of drama to it.
Yeah, it didn't feel contrived at all.
Yeah.
How was it, Sarah, working with a first-time director in Matthew Goetz? I'm guessing he took direction well.
Sometimes. Depends on the day. It's something I've done a lot in my career, and I always really enjoy it. It's really gratifying to kind of be that kind of lockstep with someone as they're finding. Matthew has a very strong voice. He's a very successful playwright, but finding his voice as a filmmaker, and helping to surround him with people that could help him with his vision. But I've worked with a lot of first-time filmmakers in my career, and I always really enjoy it. It's really, it's very satisfying when it works.
What was it about the book or the story that made Matthew want to be part of the adaptation?
He was just a fan of the book. He was a fan of the book. With another writer, Ted, who's a first writer who worked on it and delivered a really strong foundation. And Matthew read the book and loved it and reached out. My producing partner, Greg Berlanti, was involved in his play, The Inheritance. So Matthew reached out to Greg to just say, I love this book. If it's ever something I could work on. And then him becoming the director was sort of a process as we worked on it, realizing he had a clear vision for it.
I have a little side question that I've actually been wondering for a little while, Sarah. I was curious if you knew precisely why the term queer was adopted and reclaimed by the LGBTQ plus community when it was not all that long ago considered somewhat more derogatory.
I think part of the look, I'm not the spokesperson for the entirety of the queer community, but I think there is a history of taking back language, and disassembling it's the violence of it or the negativity of it and reclaiming it. So I think there's a history of that in feminism. I think there's a history of that in a lot of different spaces. So I think it's just more of an umbrella term, which I think was you get a lot of letters in there and you want everyone to feel included.
Absolutely. Are we coming closer? I know you mentioned that this felt mainstream from Amazon's perspective, to really mainstreaming queer love stories like this to the point where they wouldn't be seen as an anomaly, even on broadcast TV?
I don't think anyone in their lives experiences queer love stories as an anomaly. I think it is very rare for anyone to live their life and not know someone who is queer, not have a child or a cousin or a brother or a parent. I just think that we talk about representation, the importance of representation. It's not about inventing representation. It's about reflecting the world that we actually live in. And I think that's what this film does. And I think, but it's not, again, it's just what's I think really sometimes when you make very commercial things, people don't appreciate the politics behind them and the savvy of them. But this is a really commercial piece that's meant to reach a lot of people, so a lot of people can feel seen and see a reflection of themselves. So and that's why it's also like it was very important to Casey that Alex is bisexual, and that was an important part of our adaptation and really making sure that we represented that. But I think all these really specific experiences, if you're talking about the emotions underneath them, they're universal. And that's the power of cinema, right? And television is you connect to characters that are living different lives than you are, but are experiencing emotions you experience.
I was going to bring that up too about Alex being bisexual rather than queer going in, and that he's biracial. That had to drive certain segments of America batty.
I don't know. I think a lot of people, I think despite what certain elections might suggest, I think there's a lot of progressiveness in America, especially like younger people.
Just the fact we're having this conversation at all shows
Yeah.
how progressive we
No,
are.
I was an executive at Warner Brothers for almost 10 years. And like 15, 20 years ago, this movie never would have been made by a major studio.
Oh, I think possibly even 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You must have been thrilled that Uma Thurman was interested in playing the president of the United States here, and she's just terrific. What a coup.
I'm just old enough to really appreciate all of what Uma means. You know, I was a very big fan of her work with Tarantino, and so it was a pleasure. And working with her was great and really connected, and she really wanted to do a great job. And I think it's also really important that we applaud the people that contribute to movies like this, whether or not they actually belong to these communities themselves, because I think that's what real allyship is. I mean, that's how I see it. And so Uma being a part of this really helped give it, I mean, first of all, she's just a great actress. And you have to, if you're casting a female president, which unfortunately still feels like a stretch in the current America that we live in and the amount of misogyny that still exists, you need a woman that feels powerful and strong where you're like, I would vote for her. And so when Uma Thurman walks in the room, you're like, I would definitely vote for her.
I would vote for her just as Uma Thurman, not as the character in the
No, absolutely.
in the
I would
film.
vote for her as Uma Thurman. I'd vote for her as the bride. I'd vote for her as a lot of different things.
You know, so much of there's a lot of controversy and discussion, as you know, Sarah, about the idea of being what you play. You know, in terms of minority, disability, etc. Should it matter to people what the sexual orientation of Taylor and Nicholas are in reality?
Oh, I mean, I think they're actors and they're playing roles. And I think that's their business. I think like authenticity is important, but I also think like it's actually not legal to ask people their sexuality when you're auditioning them. It's not appropriate. It's a personal, like, it's not something that can be done. Obviously we want authenticity. I think when you're talking about like race and when you're talking about, background and you're talking about disability, I think that's also really important. That's easier in a way to actually talk about to a certain extent. But I think like I just think like this is the full breadth of human experience, and I think we're just excited that we had such great actors that wanted to be a part of this little merry band.
I think, you know, there was a lot of speculation again about their sexual orientation over social media. But something like this, I know, again, it's nobody's business but their own. But it probably also helped drive viewership to some degree too. I mean, just
I think what drove viewership was their chemistry. I think they've got great chemistry in the movie, you know, because they're wonderful actors.
And absolutely, they had amazing chemistry.
Yeah, and I think Matthew also did a great job directing them, and he had a whole, you know, we included a rehearsal process, which is I think so important and so often due to scheduling and money and everything else, like you don't get to always do that. And I think it's such a gift whenever you can. And it makes such a difference for the actors and for the audience ultimately.
Did you see a lot of actors for both roles
Yeah, we saw a lot of actors for both roles. And, you know, I think it was they're great parts. So a lot of people were interested in playing them, but finding, when you have a book as well, and I'm sure like Lauren also went through this, the audience knows a lot about the characters, right? Like because they've spent so much time with them, and because like a novel allows you to really get inside of people. So finding someone that fully, like, all the expectations that an audience brings, it's like an actor has to embody that. And both Nick and Taylor were so good at, like, I mean, they were carrying around the books. They were really like, they cared about the fans. Like, they really wanted them to be happy with like how they played these characters. I think they felt responsibility, which was amazing.
You might have noticed, Sarah, for the first time, two actors who are openly queer, Coleman Domingo and Jodie Foster, were nominated for Oscars for portraying queer characters, which has never happened with two performers in the same year before. And that has to be seen as progress to some degree.
It's all progress. I think it's great. I mean, Jodie Foster should just win whatever award she wants whenever she wants, and Coleman Domingo is amazing. And yeah, I think it's great. But again, I just think like we should keep making interesting stories. And the reason why they were nominated was because they're really good in good movies about interesting people. So
absolutely. We're going to wrap there. Sarah, good luck to you at the upcoming PGA Awards.
Thank you.
Red, White, and Royal Blue is streaming over Prime Video. Thanks for joining us today.
Of course, my pleasure. Thanks so much.